Coming up to 13 minutes past 11 o'clock, my guest in the studio this morning, we know him well, Director of Communications, Stephen Patterson from NE1. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Sue.
I am so jealous of your suntan. Where have you been?
I had a sneaky week away skiing over the Christmas break with the family. So
Just away skiing. How lovely. Did you have a good time?
Oh, it was lovely. The kids loved it.
Clearly. Now, I can remember quite a few years ago. How many years is it since we started talking about Restaurant Week?
It was 8 years ago. 8 years ago.
I can't believe that. 8 years. Now, this came out really as a pilot. They didn't know if it was going to work or not because in most places, pubs, restaurants, hotels, January is the time when, and entertainers as well, we have hardly any work. A lot of people go away on holiday. So initially, why did you start this in January?
Well, specifically for that reason, the last week in January is traditionally the quietest for the restaurant trade. We started with 13 restaurants 8 years ago, and it was really just to see if we could all club together and do something to drive additional trade for the city during that week and really just shout about the amazing restaurant scene we have here in Newcastle. As I say, we started with 13. We've now got 108 restaurants involved, and from that first restaurant week, we've never looked back, really.
Now, because it was a bit of a gamble, wasn't it? Let's face it, you're getting massive discounts off some of these meals. I wouldn't say they were cheaper meals. They're more fixed price. What would you call them?
It is very much that fixed price. So you can dine out for £10 or £15 per person. And it is the finest restaurants in the city. So, where you might be paying sort of £20 just for a main course, you're paying £15 for 2 courses or something like that. So they are cracking deals. And it's really just for us to showcase Newcastle's restaurant scene, the great diversity, get people off the couches. Everybody's tightening their belts and, eating nothing but celery and kale during January. And I think come the end of the month, everybody's looking to indulge a bit. And what better way than to get off the couch into the city and partake in some of the finest food Newcastle has to offer.
And of course, it's a lot of people doing the dry January as well.
They are.
Now, if I was to venture out into one of these swanky restaurants, am I looking at something a la carte where you can hardly see what's on the plate?
No, not at all. I think the menus for January's Restaurant Week very much are of the season. So you're going to find a lot of hearty food there. And it's not just, we've got cuisines from all 7 continents, Chinese, Japanese, Indian. So the menus very much reflect the season, and it's brilliant. Really good food.
Sounds great. We'll be back with Stephen Patterson from NE1 after Wonderwall and Oasis. We're talking food on BBC Newcastle, radio for the North East.
Today is gonna be the day that they're gonna throw it back to you. By now you should have somehow realized what you gotta do. I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now. Backbeat, the word is on the street that the fire in your heart is out. I'm sure you've heard it all before, but you never really had a doubt. I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now. And all the roads we have to walk are winding, and all the lights that lead us there are blinding. There are many things that I would like to say to you, but I don't know how. not to do. I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now. And all the roads that lead you there were winding, and all the lights that light the way are blinding. There are many things that I would like to say to you, but I don't know how. I said maybe you're gonna be the one that saves me. And after all, you're my wonderwall. I said maybe you're gonna be the one that saves me. And after all, you're my wonderwall. I said maybe you're gonna be the one that saves me. You're gonna be the one that saves me. You're gonna be the one that saves me.
Very powerful song, Oasis and Wonderwall. On BBC Newcastle, Radio for the North East. Sue Sweeney on your Sunday. In the studio with me right now, Director of Communications, Stephen Patterson from NE1. We're talking about Restaurant Week. Now, this happens between the 21st and the 27th of January. I can't believe it's 8 years, Stephen, since it last developed. Now, if people are interested, what sort of cuisine is on offer at these restaurants?
Well, I suppose the simple answer is everything, really, Sue. We've got cuisines from around the world, 108 restaurants taking part. And I think that's really indicative of how Newcastle's restaurant scene has grown over the last 8 years. We've now got more restaurants per capita than any other city outside London, and we've got the fastest growth rate of independent restaurants for any other cities outside London as well. So what you can see is a hugely competitive restaurant scene, and that all bodes really well for the customer, really.
And, you know, probably this is... Can you give us a ballpark figure of how many extra people come into Newcastle?
I can, yeah. It's huge. Over Restaurant Week in January, we'll see an additional 45,000 people coming into the city centre and taking advantage of the Restaurant Week offers. It's immense.
And is there a knock-on effect, Stephen? You know, if I was coming into the town, I'd probably book a reasonably priced hotel so that I could sample the food, maybe have a drink, stay over. Does that happen?
It does indeed. It does indeed. We see that with sort of the cultural event. You know, people will make a night of it. They'll go for a meal and then go to a show or indeed stay in a hotel. And what the restaurateurs tell us is that, you know, the faces that they see coming through the door during Restaurant Week, they'll see them coming back time and time again throughout the rest of the year.
If it's so successful, why don't they do it all the time?
Well, after the first one we did 8 years ago in January, the restaurateurs came straight back and banging their fists on the table said, we want to do it again. So we do it again in August. It's always the first week in August, which is the traditionally the second quietest week of the year, Sue.
Oh, right. So, and what about, does it spill into other areas? You know, I'm talking Sunderland, Middlesbrough, Durham.
Indeed. Sunderland now have their own restaurant week, which is fantastic to see. And we've even advised Aberdeen, as far north as Aberdeen, so they do their own restaurant week as well. I think it's something that's really growing in momentum and it's really catching on around the country.
So if anyone's got a birthday in January, you have my deepest sympathy because, you know, it's difficult, isn't it, in January to go out and celebrate a birthday when you've spent so much money over Christmas and New Year. And this is a great idea, to go to a restaurant and get a fixed price Can we log onto a website and see what is on offer, what we do fancy?
Absolutely. All of the offers are on getintonewcastle.co.uk. As I say, offers for £10 or £15 per person. One thing I would just advise, booking in advance, as all the popular restaurants are fully booked pretty much during the week. So get on now, see what takes your fancy and get booking, really.
Sounds great. I wish they were doing it in Durham City. Are they doing it in Durham City?
It wouldn't surprise me if they did, Sue. It's been hugely successful here, and there's some great eateries in Durham as well.
Well, it must be. It's 8 years since you sent me that email to tell me all about it. And you were all a bit worried, thinking, oh, this is not going to work.
That was obviously off mic, Sue.
From a tiny acorn.
Yeah.
From a tiny acorn. Director of Communications, Stephen Patterson from NE1. How do you spend your Sunday?
Oh, I'm going to go out for a walk with the family. We're going to walk the dogs. So we're going to get scarves on, hats on, blustery day to day. That's the way to do it, I think.
You have a fabulous Sunday. It's a breezy one out there. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.